Hello, I'm Dr. Vanita Rattan. I'm a doctor, but I'm also a cosmetic formulator specifically for skin of color. Right, so today's video is about dark spot mistakes that you're making. And so some of you may be trying to treat the pigmentation, but not getting the results that you want. And there are quite a few reasons for why this might be happening. It's a video I probably should have made sooner, but we're here now. And actually today I've got 4 videos I'm making just on dark spots because for skin of color, this really is our #1 issue. There are many mistakes that are currently being made by our global skin of color family to treat our dark spots and why it can result in frustration. So first thing you need to know is, why is it that this is such a big concern for skin of color? Why is it that Caucasians don't really suffer with this as much as we do? And the reason is because of biology. It's the way our skin has been designed. Our melanocytes are larger. Those are cells that produce the pigment melanin than for Caucasian skin, and they are more reactive. They are easier to trigger. Like I always say, one scratch, one bite, or one burn, and we hyperpigment. And so we have to be a lot more careful with our skin than Caucasians need to be. And this is why we have to be more educated and empowered with our skincare, because the vast majority of skincare wasn't designed with us in mind. If any of you are part of our private Facebook group called Dr. V Sock Family, I just gave you the answers to one of the questions that you need to answer in order to get into that private Facebook group. But that's an amazing group to get into if skincare is a huge passion for you. If you have skin of color and you are struggling, it's a wonderful safe space for us to talk about our own skincare. So please do join that if you haven't already. Okay, right. So first of all, there are 5 key stages when it comes to treating pigmentation. And if at any of these 5 stages you go wrong, you're not going to get the results that you want. So in today's video, I'm going to go through what those stages are, the classic mistakes that get made, and how you rectify them. How do you get the results that you want? If that sounds good to you, give me a thumbs up. Let's dive right in. Right, so the 5 stages are: number 1, the trigger. You want to block the trigger. Number 2, you want to calm down that hyperactive melanocyte. Number 3, you want to reduce the number of melanin parcels that are passing from the melanocyte to the skin cells around it. Number 4, you want to exfoliate. So you want to remove that top layer of skin. And number 5, you want to increase cell turnover. This means that cells get to the surface much quicker, so there's less time for melanin to seep into those skin cells before they make their way up. These are 5 areas that we have to tackle to treat pigmentation, especially stubborn pigmentation for skin of color. So let's start off with the first one, which is the trigger. Now, the #1 trigger by far for our face, for melasma, is UV. So UV, we have to block completely. And the way we do this is you need to reapply your SPF50 every 2 hours. This is not negotiable. The #1 mistake I used to see people making in my clinic for hyperpigmentation was, have you applied your sunscreen? And they'd say yes. And I'd say, how many times have you applied it today? And they said, I did it, before I put my makeup on, and that was it for the rest of the day. That was the #1 mistake. Honestly, there's no point wasting money on products, including my products, nobody's products, if you're not applying your sunscreen every 2 hours, because nothing can fight the sun. There is no ingredient strong enough to fight the sun. So you absolutely must shield your face, protect your skin from UV damage. UV is a form of energy, causes inflammation of the skin, and it triggers the melanocyte. There are a few ways to do it. So first of all, I've got a whole set of sunscreens I prefer for skin of color for pigmentation, and I've got a whole video on that, but I'm just going to give you the nuts and bolts of it, the criteria. You want an SPF50, broad spectrum. Ideally, I prefer mineral sunscreen because it's anti-inflammatory. Zinc oxide is anti-inflammatory. And so if inflammation is triggering the melanocyte, you really want an anti-inflammatory sunscreen. This is why I tend to prefer mineral sunscreen over chemical sunscreen. You also want to make sure there's no other irritating ingredients in there that may be causing inflammation. Don't worry, that's beyond the scope of today's video, and I've done a whole video dedicated to best sunscreens for dark spots. So I think definitely watch that video. But the one I'm wearing today, of course, is Inzincable. This is my SPF50, mineral SPF50 for skin of color, specifically for pigmentation, because I put a Melashield into this, which is a UV stable tyrosinase inhibitor. This is the one that I love. Obviously, I made it for my face, I made it for you, but whichever one you like is absolutely fine. If you do want Inzincable SPF50, you can get it from www.skincare.drv.com, and the link is down below. The second biggest concern is acne leading to pigmentation. So we have to tackle that really at the source, and that is to unclog the pores and control sebum production. Because what's the point of treating the pigmentation left after the trigger? Let's reduce the trigger. So really, in your skincare routine, you need to have salicylic acid, probably once a day, minimum probably twice a day. Use benzoyl peroxide if you're actually getting acne spots, and use niacinamide and azelaic acid. Those are all excellent ingredients in order to control sebum production and reduce any redness from acne. If you live in a country where mosquito bites are common, or you're going on holiday and you know, like me, mosquitoes love your sweet blood, then honestly I wear DEET spray, the jungle spray, maximum strength, because as it is, I hate the itchiness from a mosquito bite. It's incredibly irritating, but more than that, I hate the hyperpigmentation left behind after, because it means that I don't feel comfortable wearing my little shorts or my little skirts or whatever I want to wear in a hot country. So yes, you know, at the airport, make sure you're purchasing that DEET spray and block the trigger. I'd also say, if you're like me, so I'm prone to melasma, during the day, there's no clock that goes off and tells you, oh, you need to reapply your sunscreen, it's no longer working. There's no green light, there's no buzzer. And I would find this quite difficult. And this is why I basically made anti-melasma sunglasses myself, and mainly for really when I'm driving or when I'm just sitting out on holiday, which basically covered the area where I get melasma. For me, it's the cheekbones. 80% of us get hyperpigmentation first here, then it spreads to other parts of the face. So these are the Dr. V sunglasses. They've been out of stock for ages. We will be getting more stock in, but the link again for that is down below. If you can't get hold of those, just purchase large anti-melasma sunglasses just to try and cover as much of that area as possible. The big problem I found actually was that usually with large sunglasses, you usually just get a skinny little arm, which can be made of metal. Metal is not something you want next to your face when you've got pigmentation. So if any of your sunglasses right now have metal on it, it's just reflecting energy back onto the face. So it's a mistake. Really, you want acetate ideally, and as fat an arm as possible. Second thing you want to do is make sure you're calming your melanocytes. I've got a video coming up I'm filming after this, and honestly I was so shocked at looking at the most popular products for dark spots, and I couldn't believe just how weak they were. For us, we really require a cocktail of tyrosinase inhibitors, and those should be used with ingredients in the therapeutic index. And unfortunately, a lot of them that are on the market, because it's unregulated, because you can literally put an ingredient in your product at 0.01%, not in the therapeutic index, and market that ingredient. And I've seen it happen. The vast majority of skincare right now, that's what's happening. Everyone is being duped, which is the reason we created this channel, so that none of you guys get duped. But really what we want is multi-tyrosinase inhibitor cocktails, because they all work slightly differently on that melanin production pathway. We need them in the therapeutic index. In a second, I'm going to go through the ones that I like, but some of the ingredients that I like, if you're in a different country and you don't have access to these products, just make sure you're looking for these ingredients. Alpha-arbutin, kojic dipalmitate, I love. Vitamin C, I prefer non-irritating versions of vitamin C. Ascorbic acid can be quite irritating unless it's at low concentrations, so I prefer tetrahexyldecalascorbic, my favorite vitamin C, because it's fat soluble, gets into the dermis and stimulates collagen, but also brightens the skin. Sodium ascorbyl phosphate, I love as well. Vitamin A, again, there are irritating versions and non-irritating versions. I'm always going to opt for things like retinaldehyde, which I put into our pigmentation kits. So for example, this is a facial pigmentation kit for skin of color. I use it for my melasma, and it's got 10 tyrosinase inhibitors in here to calm down the melanocyte, including retinaldehyde. Often you'll see at the back of the ingredients the word retinal. So retinal is how you write retinaldehyde. Sometimes people get confused and think retinal is retinol. It's not. They're two different forms of vitamin A. Also, make sure that the serum that you're using is NAF safe. That means no denatured alcohol, no fragrance, and no essential oils, because these can all lead to irritation, which can lead to worsening of pigmentation, which is the exact opposite of what we're trying to do. Right, so I basically went through the internet and managed to find 4 products that I like for pigmentation. The first one is Poreless Discoloration Serum. It's essentially niacinamide plus tranexamic acid. So it's 2 tyrosinase inhibitors. And it's NAF safe, and generally as a brand I do love Paula's Choice. Not everything from Paula's Choice is suitable for skin of color. I've done a whole video on that, but this particular product I like. The next one I really like is Good Molecules Discoloration Correcting Serum. It's only $12, so it's cheap. It's niacinamide plus tranexamic acid again. So it's a cheaper version really of Paula's Choice. Paula's Choice is about 3 times the price. But you know, whichever brand you like, but I do like that particular product. The next one I like is Face Theory Pore Bright N10 serum. So this is essentially 10% niacinamide plus azelaic acid. This one is good for red marks. So if, for example, you're getting acne and you're getting the red marks left behind, this is a good one for it. Some people do react to 10% niacinamide. A lot of our clinical studies were done from 2 to 5%, as you know, if you've watched a few of my videos. And the mistake that got made was that basically The Ordinary came out with 10% niacinamide and everyone copied The Ordinary because they were doing so well. And then the mistakes got replicated and scaled up. And so the mistake here was 10% niacinamide. If you're reacting when you use niacinamide, that's probably the reason. If you're using 2 to 5%, you're probably going to be absolutely fine. And then the next one is from The Ordinary, 2% alpha arbutin. I love it. It's a fantastic tyrosinase inhibitor. I would say pick one of those. I always say start cheap. So pick one of those products, do it for 3 to 6 months. If you're seeing results and you're happy, then great. You don't need to do anything more. If you are not seeing results, it means that your pigmentation is more stubborn and you're going to need more ingredients. Basically, you're going to need higher actives, and this is when I would recommend you upgrade to the facial pigmentation kit or the body pigmentation kit, specifically for skin of color, because it does have 10 tyrosinase inhibitors in it. Moving on to the third way of treating pigmentation, that is to increase cell turnover. So the most popular ingredient to use is your vitamin A to do that. However, vitamin A is very drying, and so when you're increasing cell turnover rapidly, a lot of you are going to find that your skin is feeling like it's dry, sensitive, and flaking. The problem with this is that basically skin is, when you lose water molecules, the skin cells are not as separated. They are closer together, they're more compact. And actually pigmentation can look darker when you're using vitamin A. So what you have to do is make sure you're wearing a fatty moisturizer. A lot of people make the mistake where they wear a lotion or a thin moisturizer or their normal summer moisturizer. That's not going to work when you're using vitamin A. So for example, in our facial pigmentation kit, I've got 3 forms of vitamin A in it. We've got retinaldehyde, retinol, and retinol palmitate. That means you need to wear a fatty moisturizer in order to get water molecules in between those skin cells. It improves the health of the skin barrier and it lightens the appearance of pigmentation. I've done a whole video for you on best moisturizers to use when you're treating pigmentation, but the one I wear is this one, which is Cera-Pep Moisturiser, Brightening Moisturiser, and it's from the Dr. Vanita Rattan range, and it's again for people with skin of color, and a lot of us are treating pigmentation, so it has anti-pigmentation ingredients in it as well. I would then say exfoliation is a fantastic part of treating pigmentation. It's effective, it's fast, however, it's temporary. And if you don't do it correctly, it can lead to more pigmentation. So I need you to be careful. What I would say is on the days that you're not using your tyrosinase inhibiting cream or serum, that's the day that you want to exfoliate. And when I say exfoliate, you do not use a physical scrub or an enzyme exfoliator because they can be quite irritating. And when you choose a chemical exfoliator, I tend to recommend 5% mandelic or 5% lactic acid. Avoid glycolic acid if you can, or use a very low concentration glycolic, less than 5%. But actually the best ones are going to be lactic acid and mandelic acid because they do improve the brightness and hydration levels of the skin as well. The benefits of exfoliation are not only are you removing that top layer of dead skin and so pigmentation immediately improves, but also you are getting rid of that tough dead skin, which is almost forming an extra barrier and preventing actives from penetrating into the skin. So it's a twofold benefit from exfoliating correctly. So the ones that I like 5% lactic acid from The Ordinary. The one I use is Exfoliate to Glow from our range, which is again for skin of color. If you want all your information in one place, we now have Skin Revolution, which is available globally. We have an amazing publisher, HarperCollins, who really backed us with this book. So I wrote this book for my global skin of color family, and there's a whole section here on pigmentation, melasma, and then pigmentation when you have dry skin or pigmentation when you have oily acne prone skin, and how you do your routines. So sometimes, you don't have 20 minutes to watch a whole video and you just want your answers quickly and be able to purchase the products that you want quickly. As you know, none of my videos have ever been sponsored, and neither has this book. None of these products in this book have been sponsored. All product recommendations are, of course, evidence-based. The link to purchase is down below in the description box, and honestly, it's been the hardest secret to keep from you guys for a whole year. Can you imagine me? I talk to you about every tiny little idea or thought that even crosses my mind. Sometimes I'm doing a video with you and I'll think, oh, that's a good idea. I wonder what everyone else thinks. In the middle of the video, I don't even plan it. So yeah, this one was very, very tough for me to keep. But honestly, probably one of the most proudest achievements, and I'm so glad I finally get to share it with you. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. I don't know if you're already following me on Instagram. I've got two accounts, Skincare by Dr. V and Dr. Vanita Rattan. But about 8 months ago, I was asking a lot of questions and I was doing a lot of polls. We actually conducted the largest polls for skin of color globally on my Instagram account. And we had thousands of responses. That doesn't happen in any clinical study for skin of color. You don't get thousands of responses. It just doesn't happen. And that's what happened for us. And I put all the information I collected into the book. And that's the reason why I was doing those polls. So if any of you are wondering, Dr. V, what are you doing with all this information and this data? It was so that I could put it together. And hopefully, I want the large companies to read this book too. I want them to do better for us as well. But it's also CPD accredited, so it's great for doctors, it's great for accountants, it's literally great for anyone who's in a profession that needs CPD points. It's also for the new beginner who's never touched a moisturizer before. I've literally made cheat sheets and summary tables to make it as easy and step-by-step as possible. So I really hope you guys love this book as much as I do. Don't forget to follow me on TikTok as well, Dr. Vanita Rattan, and I'm in the comment section for 1 hour at the launch of every single video. So please do come and ask me your questions because I'm here for you. Thank you. Bye.